G'day friends, Happy New Year. And as if 2020 wasn't crazy enough, enter the Gypsy Crusader. Now, I like the guy. I think he's a funny guy, very entertaining. And if you haven't heard of him, he's pretty much the hottest thing online right now. Not necessarily on YouTube, however, many alt accounts have opened up playing his clips that aren't him and are receiving tens of thousands of views in just a matter of days. You know, sub accounts that only have a few hundred subs are playing his videos and getting tens of thousands of views, and there's a reason for this. It's because he's a little bit controversial, or he's a lot controversial I should say, and some say a little bit crazy. Now I just want to start by saying that I'm not judging, I'm just saying, okay, this is my opinion. I've looked at a few of his videos and I've seen where he's coming from, and I think that Gypsy Crusader needs to forgive and repent, and I'll tell you why. Okay, now if he was just any Joe Blow online and saying these things, I would say, well, you know, you can say whatever you like. But when somebody says that they're a Christian, there's a different frame of reference, and there's a certain standard, and the most important standard of somebody that calls themselves a Christian is that they ought to be having a mind like Christ, and at least starting to do a little bit of what Jesus said and what the Bible says. So one of the Bible verses I remember in particular to do with Gypsy Crusader is that vengeance is of the Lord. Okay, and if you remember Jesus, okay, when they came to get him, even well even before they came to get him, while they were against him, he didn't necessarily tell his disciples to attack them. He basically just did what he had to do and said the right things and did the right things. And even when they came to get him, okay, and one of his disciples tried to lay a hand on the Roman guard, he said not to do that, because his kingdom was not of this world. And by this world he meant this system of government, this way of you know, flesh and blood government that would fight in a way that the Romans would fight. It was a totally different form of government. But anyway, so that's the reference I'm coming from here. And see, just a little bit of background on the Gypsy Crusader if you haven't come across him yet or know much about his story. Basically, you know, he was a right-wing type conservative, you know, you could say Trump supporter, used to wear the MAGA hat, and he was a journalist, and he was you know, doing some fairly controversial reporting when it came to the you know, the political groups such as Black Lives Matter and Antifa, and he used to go there, and I would say he was against them. And basically this is part of the problem, because when you come from a position within the dialect, okay, you have to expect that if you're gonna fight in that frame of reference, you know, you must expect some blowback there, because that's what happens. Okay, if you want to get involved in trying to fight these political groups in these dialectics that are all orchestrated. Don't be surprised if they come to your house and if they call your mother and even come to fight you on the street. That's to be expected, you would have to think. Okay, it's pretty common sense stuff. So when they come and do this against you, okay, instead of wanting revenge, right, you have to be forgiving them, for they don't know what they're doing because they're programmed. Okay, that's what Jesus said. Forgive them, for they know not what they do. Okay, but no, the Gypsy Crusader wants revenge, and that is the foundation of his motivation. He wants revenge. Now, I just see that there's going to be a little bit of a problem coming for him in the future, because he has self-styled himself now as basically a white nationalist, okay, and even somewhat of a neo-Nazi type, that he believes that you know, the Austrian painter, okay, from last century, the Austrian painter had it right, and that he had the best model for taking care of these types of people, the Antifa communist types. He thinks Hitler had the right idea, okay, and the right way. So number one, you know, if Hitler had the right idea, well, it didn't seem to succeed, because he garnered as much force as he possibly could. An entire nation was behind him of 60 million people, and he still could not defeat the enemy with all the guns and bullets and tanks and planes and submarines that he had, and all the power of the German people. Still, Hitler was unable to defeat the enemy. So, you know, it's because the enemy operates on a spiritual plane that is easier to defeat than someone who's operating on a physical plane. But that's another story. I've done another video about that. But the point is that Gypsy Crusader, okay, what he has to realize is that soon enough, the laws that are coming in to do with white nationalism that are already on the books, and also the laws that have to do with streaming platforms, where certain groups, okay, such as ADL and others, SPLC and you know the ones, the laws are opening up for them to litigate against streaming platforms that platform material that is deemed to be, you know, anti-Semitic or hate speech and all these type of things. They virtually determine what they think is hate speech and so forth, and they put that on the books, and it gets into the code, and all it takes is for one large group, you know, advocate group, let's say, to sue a streaming platform such as, say, Omegle, which you know, the Gypsy Crusader streams on, or Bitwave, which he streams on. All it takes is for them to lodge a multi-million-dollar lawsuit against one of these big platforms, and then he will, you know, he will number one, be kicked off the platform, or number two, they could sue him in return, as far as that they can sort of counter sue him for getting them in trouble, if you like. I think that's the way I'm reading these new laws. Now, you know, people should be able to say whatever they like, but we have to be wise as serpents, and this is just the situation, okay? And now, on top of that, the the number one terrorist organization at the Department of Homeland Security right now, or the number one terrorist group, I should say, not organization, even down to the individual, is the white nationalist. Okay, now if somebody listened to Gypsy Crusader just for a little while, you'll see that he is a so-called white nationalist, or that's what he would self-style himself as. And some of the rhetoric that comes from his mouth, I can see that in the laws that are on the books already and that are coming, that something like that could be prosecuted, and because it falls under the terrorism banner, we're talking federal prison time. Okay, federal prison for something like that. Okay, now, of course, it could be fought in law and so forth, but it's just probably not the wisest thing to do. And back to the frame of reference, it's not what Jesus would do. Now, the Gypsy Crusader, like I said, I'm not judging him. He can go and do that, but he can't call himself a Christian and go and do that, because that's not what Jesus said to do. That's like a Roman way of doing things, like a German way of doing things. Like that's what the Romans did back in 70 AD. That's what the Germans tried to do in the 30s, so forth. They tried to do it that way. Okay, and it doesn't work long term, does it? So what Gypsy Crusader should do, if you ask me, is do what Jesus said. And the best way to fight the good fight is just to go and do the good thing, just to go and do the right thing, just to do what Jesus said, okay? And then you'll receive the blessing of the Father in heaven, okay? If you go off and try to fight this gunfight with a stick in your hand, it's going to be fairly short order that you will be destroyed. Okay, now he has got a big following. Okay, a lot of young people especially follow him, and there is a bit of an imbalance in his message. Okay, because he has hate in his heart and revenge. Okay, he does call a lot of people that aren't European derogatory names and so forth, and I can see where he's coming from. Don't get me wrong. He was attacked by different groups, and he has a vendetta against these groups, and this is his words. He has a vendetta. He's out for revenge, so forth and so on. So because that is the foundation of his motivation, what's happening is he's spewing his hatred for his situation, which once again is understandable, toward innocent individuals that make up part of these certain groups. Okay, and we're talking young people, and we're talking girls, we're talking everyone that he comes across that gets put into these groups. Now, he understands a lot of the problem. I even agree with him on a lot of things, but the point of this message is that he can go and do these things if he likes, as long as he doesn't attach the word Christian to it, because it's not the Christian way to do it. That's all I'm saying. Okay, and I hope he repents and he finds the right way, and I hope he forgives these people, because they don't know what they're doing. They're programmed, and the reason he's doing these things is because he's come from inside that dialectic. Okay, and if he thinks that they weren't going to retaliate against his reporting against them and all that, well, he should have expected this. Okay, because that's what happens if you get tangled up in that dialectic. But Jesus was above all that stuff. Jesus had the Antifa in his day and so forth. These are the ones that were in the crowds that called for Barabbas instead of Jesus. Okay, but did Jesus go out and attack the Antifa of the day? Did Jesus attack the Romans? No, he didn't. Okay, so we'll just put Gypsy Crusader in his place. I will say that he's a Roman type, as far as not necessarily ethnically speaking, but the way that these countries and governments have put down these people in the past, like the Romans did in 70 AD, like the Austrian painter did in 33, so forth. But that's where he's at. He's one of those types. He is not a Christian in the true sense, because Jesus doesn't do it that way. Okay, Jesus just does it through faith, hope and charity, where you've just got to go and do the right thing. And if this guy starts to take these people down, that is, like I said, a Roman type motivation, but it's not a Christian motivation. Okay, because there are several passages and teachings of Jesus that would say not to do it in this particular fashion. Okay, so just a small critique there of Gypsy Crusader and an introduction to him. You will be finding out who he is. He may even get super popular. Okay, he already is quite popular. But as far as following him, if you are saying you're a Christian, now he can do what he wants. Other people can do what they want. But don't do it in the name of Christ, because that's not the way Jesus said to proceed. But anyway, just a quick report there. And until next time, peace.